Well, good Friday morning, everybody. 10 o'clock, somewhere in there. I ran to town, did my errands, whatnot. I ordered some parts, so I have to go back down this afternoon and pick them up for this truck, 2001 Chevrolet 1500. Customer states that it has driveline noise, and then I check out front end. Front end needs some parts, and I'll go over that with them when we holler back, because that's going to have to be at a different time anyway, because it needs a pretty extensive front end work, and then we'll address a couple other things. But so, like I said, the customer stated he had a driveline noise, and he assumed it was pinion, and it is. So if you watch the pinion in there, if I can get you in here closer before I start moving stuff around, I'm gonna go in this way. See how she's sucking that pinion in and out? Well, if you're moving a pinion in and out that much, and the way this thing sounds, it sounds like when you're going down the road, it sounds like you threw a handful of rocks in the dryer and turned it on. That pinion's trying to, the ring gear's trying to eat the pinion, trying to suck it in. So we're just gonna go ahead and do a rear end swap versus trying to rebuild this one, because then you're gonna need ring pinion bearings and all that other junk, and they don't, it's not a daily driver and all that stuff. So, and this is gonna be a better alternative even if he does use it as a daily driver from time to time, because we're gonna take a completely built rear end or complete assembly and swap in versus trying to rebuild this for, well, you'd have a lot of money into it. So I think a cheap rebuild kit's about $500, and that doesn't include labor and the miscellaneous that you're going to need besides. So we're going to grab jack stands. I got this thing sitting the axle right now. Jack is sitting underneath it, so we got to get jack stands put underneath here, get this thing supported, and I'll show you how we're going to drop the rear end out of it. Okay, let's get into this thing. Couple of things you're going to want to do here. Bolt that holds the brake hose on, and that's your splitter. You got to take that bolt off. The bolt that retains the parking brake cable, and it's the retainer for the metal brake line. You're going to want to take this little clip out to remove that brake line. These are a little bit scaly, so we'll probably we might end up putting some brake lines on this thing. Not a huge deal. We'll see what the ones on the other axle look like. If those ones are in good shape, then we won't worry about it, but otherwise we'll be fabricating some brake lines for this, so that way the customer doesn't have to worry about that aspect of it. Obviously you unbolt your shock, disconnect your parking brake cable from the axle and the lever there. That lever, this is going to be like the previous vehicle that we worked on with that Buick. You're not going to be hooking those back up, because by the time you pull that lever over to get it hooked back up, you'll probably have stuck parking brakes. Brakes on this are in decent shape. They got a little surface rust on the rotors, but that's just from, it needs a little bit of mileage put on it. Not a huge deal. Brake pads are in good shape. Calipers are actually pretty new. They still got paint on them, so they've been replaced recently. So we'll be swapping the brakes over, unless the brakes are equal or better shape on the other axle. Again, I doubt, because that one's been sitting for several years now. So we're going to grab some tools. We'll get one side apart and then kind of show you what's going on the other side, and we'll go from there. All right, so remove the brake caliper because we have the jack stand in front of the axle there, and just to make things a little bit easier, 18-inch impacts, or 18-millimeter impact swivel, 6-inch, half-inch drive extension, and we can reach around to the back side back here like this. And we take our bolt out. There's going to be I like just drop it on the floor like that. It works out okay. And you can pull your bolt out, set it down there by the jack stand. There's gonna be one more on the top. Like so. We're not gonna need that socket, so we can leave the bolt right in there. Little pry bar. We can tuck the caliper right there for now. On the back side, I forget on these Chevrolets. I'll show you here on this back side. Oh, come around here. If I get you in here, right there, there's a 13mm head bolt. That actually takes this bracket off. You can see how poor condition these brake lines are in. I contacted the customer. Customer elected to have them replaced while I'm here because it's going to be easier. I got everything up in the air versus bringing it back, doing an entire separate repair. So we're gonna address that as well. But for now, we're gonna get this axle out of here. We are gonna leave the lines intact as they are, so we don't have brake fluid and all that stuff running all over the place. So we'll come around back here with a 13mm impact swivel socket. Maybe this one's a little rusty. Let me take that one off. And disconnect that. Now over here on the axle, there's another bolt. We take that bolt out as well. Set those down here by our jack stand so everything's in the same spot. There's going to be one more on top of the differential cover that holds the emergency brake and the brake lines in place. So if we can reach over, maybe. And that frees all of those lines up. Everything is separated from the axle at this point except for the breather tube, which is on the front of the axle here. I'll try to get you in here so you can see where it's at. It's a little different light perspective. This line right here. You might be they will leave a message. Okay, that line's deteriorated enough that it's not going to come off, so what we're going to do is we're going to basically nip it off on that nipple. There is enough line that, you know, you have enough room to reattach it on the other truck. I've done that several times. So because we're going to be keeping these brakes, we go ahead and set our brake rotor over here. We'll put it in the front of the brake, or the jack stand, so that way it's out of the way, not going to get hurt by anything. I got to do the emergency brake cables, and then we'll get into the U-bolts and the drive shaft. Okay, so drive shaft on this, on my one light's going a little bit, getting low on me here. So these are going to be 11 millimeter, and I'm hoping. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of. I was hoping we'd be able to do it with the impact socket, but that's not the case. So we'll, as long as these aren't too terribly tight. I mean, you can see how much play is in that pinion. And that's with it in park. The we'll also check the U-joint on this thing to see where that's at. I'm gonna grab a 11 mil gear wrench. I was really hoping we'd be able to zip them out there at the impact, but that large aluminum drive shaft doesn't help the color in that aspect. I'm not sure why any of the manufacturers ever did that, but I'm not an engineer. I'm not here to design them, just here to fix them. So we can do that. Yeah, you can see the silver streaks running out of just a couple of drops that are on the floor. You can see the silver in it. I'm not sure why I threw the hammer and pry bar over to the side there, because I still need the pry bar and the hammer to pop this U-joint free, but maybe I can reach it. And these are going to sit right here beside the jack stand. Obviously, without a rear end in it and no way to put tires on it, it's not going to go anywhere. So, okay, come here. Okay, I gotcha. And we're going to need a bigger pry bar. Oh, come on. Sometimes you gotta give those end caps a little bit of a strike. There we go. And the one came off, so that was good. Did we lose any needle bearings? Nope. Good to go. Clean a little dirt off the end, pop her back on there. And it is actually free, so you can see that's free. Caps turn. Well, that's good. It's a replacement because it's greasable and it doesn't have the little retainer on it. So there's your other guy. She's toast. Bad way. I'll leave that wrench here because we're going to need it again anyway. All right, so we're going to make sure that your jack is snug on that rear differential. You don't want to be picking up the weight of the truck, but you want to be holding it up there. In this case, I'm going to see if I can get the nuts off the bottom of these U-bolts, particularly because the customer said go ahead, put new ones in there. That's fine. But I'm going to try to slam this old rear end back underneath that white truck, so at least it's a roller. So between the two, I'm hoping I can get one one set that doesn't break. And I'll show you why I say that here in a second. Oh, it didn't even come off. Okay, container. Most times you can see you're starting to get that scale and that buildup, and these things are starting to get weakened where they're getting deteriorated, where they sit in this axle bracket. I mean, we can pretty much admit that that wasn't a good idea. Why you created a bowl for all the rust to sit in, I don't know, but there we go. Okay, so now we have everything disconnected from the rear end. We're gonna go ahead and start letting it down, but as we do that, we gotta kind of watch things, and things are gonna want to tip and slide and move because it's only me here, so I gotta kind of try to balance that rear end on there at the same time. So it's gonna get a little bit complicated, and I'll show you how I'm gonna do it. But it's a little bit of a risky move. So you see how I came loose? Like that. Now the pinion, because of the weight of the pinion and everything, it wants to rotate and come forward off of that jack. That's going to be my biggest problem. So what I'm going to do to counterbalance that is take a pry bar and stick in one spring perch. And then I can use that to try to balance the rear end. I say try because it might not work the best in the world. So now I can just sit here, let that jack settle all the way down. We got hung up on one of the shocks, and that's okay. This side's gonna come all the way to the floor, and then we'll go take it off that shock. Like that. Now I'm gonna come over here and there we go. It was hung on that one shock. Now you can see rear end's out. I'm gonna get it slid out of there. We'll go over a couple of things and we'll get out of here. Jesus, it gets stuck on there. All right, so that's rear end removal on a 10-bolt GM. It's going to be pretty much the same thing for any of them, getting up into the 9 3/4. A little bit different springs and stuff, but it's pretty much the same procedure. Again, this would be a total rebuild with how gnarly this thing sounds. I mean, you can see, I'll grab a light here, a little bit that's leaked out. See all the metal flake that's in that? You ain't gonna come back from that, especially on a truck that's plowing. You'd, that thing would come apart in a hurry, being under load like that and pushing snow. It won't hold up to it. They're kind of a light duty rear end to begin with. So going with a complete assembly, it's gonna be far better. Whether it's new, whether it's used, but trying to build that rear end back, you're gonna have more money into it than what it would be worth. So we're gonna leave that there. Same procedure on that thing. Get the rear end out of that. And we'll come back for an installation video. So that should be fun. If you guys like what I'm doing, throw me a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, ring the bell, get my notifications. Memberships are down there if you want one, and I do appreciate it because it helps us out on the channel. Another day in the shop, guys. See you on the next one. Oh, I'm gonna do some sketchy shit. Hope that I get away with it, Yeah, you wanna pull a rear end?